The Repast Podcast may include detailed discussions about death, the human body after death, and the medical process that may be sensitive or disturbing to some listeners and viewers. Our goal is to educate and inform with respect and care. We encourage listener and viewer discretion, especially for younger audiences or those who may find these topics emotionally challenging. Welcome back to the Repast Podcast. In part 1 of Ashes and Empathy, we opened up about how funeral professionals cope with the emotional toll of their job and professional coping recommendations for all those dealing with grief. Now in part 2, we dive into how COVID-19 upended everything and shifted the landscape of wellness. Plus, we discuss what happens when grief goes public and the pressures of handling high-profile losses. Let's get into it.
Now, the next question kind of goes around, and hopefully we can put it as a distant memory, and it won't ever happen again. But what was the funeral industry, as well as what type of counseling did people require during COVID, when it was something that we'd never experienced before? Something that honestly, some people said, well, is it real?
Yeah.
You know, but what was it? Kind of an insight to the funeral side of it. What was that like?
Oh, it was a nightmare. That's what it was like. It was really a nightmare. Well, you know, a lot of families we didn't have a lot of one-on-one with because we did so much over the phone, you know, and they weren't coming into the office. But people just were just so scared back then, you know. It was hard to really talk to people because everybody was so scared. They were scared to be in the funeral home because they thought germs were around every corner, you know. So it was a difficult time. And then you were just so busy. We were just swamped with cases, you know. But I don't know. We made it through. We made it through.
Now, Dr. Rose, what kind of either post-COVID counseling or any type of counseling during COVID, how did it change to meet with people? And then also, what were they requiring even during and after?
Yeah, you know, definitely a change in an instant. You know, we went to doing virtual counseling. That was something that was unheard of. I remember in 2018, I came up with the bright idea of moving all my services virtually. And I had someone write up a nice little release for my patients. It was like pushback, like, we're not doing that. Like, it never happened because people were like, what do you mean virtually? We have to be there in the office. So to see how things changed so quickly in 2020, and I think about, you know, the media, and they talked a lot about the frontline workers, you know, the hospital workers, definitely, you know, nurses and doctors. But, you know, you guys too were frontline workers. I was a frontline worker, which a lot of people don't understand because I had so many people that had never, ever considered counseling before. Never, ever considered the pandemic. If there was a silver lining to it, it really helped to dissipate that stigma and that taboo very quickly because people needed, you know, they needed these outlets to try to figure out what to make of all these emotions when you had individuals that were losing multiple loved ones at one time. I even remember I did a lot of media work during that time. And I remember being interviewed by a woman, and we're in Detroit, so we know how hard it was hit. But I remember her going through the whole interview with me, just asking, like you guys are at, what are some of the coping? What do you suggest to folks? And at the very end of the interview, she shared with me, she said, right now, my mother and my grandmother are in the hospital on ventilators. And she was like, and neither one is expected to make it. And she just burst out, you know? So it went from this interview, which I was used to giving, to now it's an impromptu counseling session with this person who's still doing their job because she had to, but now she's facing the imminent passing, which both her mom and grandmother did pass, you know, during that time. So those are just some of the things that, you know, we all had to deal with. And for myself, I had to be, as we talked about today, very conscious and deliberate in protecting myself outside of the session. So I joke around with a lot of folks. I said, my TV habits included a lot of the Love Boat, old 70s sitcoms. I think I watched every season of The Jeffersons. Like, seriously, like I had to really just kind of replace what was happening with just this escapism through, comedy. Like you said, with humor. And I know that really, I could not watch the numbers or, any of that other stuff because I was facing that instead and, lost very good friends as well. So in the midst of us grieving, we still had to step up. Yeah.
And what would you kind of even outside of grief, when people are dealing with situations like COVID that nobody's ever dealt with before? So when people are facing the unknown, like what kind of strategies, like coping strategies, or what kind of things would help people get through if they're facing, any type of unknown realm like that?
You try to, at best, normalize it. We all were dealing with the unknown. None of us knew how long this was going to last. We didn't know if this was forever. We didn't know if it was, I remember when everything first shut down, what was it? They said for the next 2 weeks. And then after that 2 weeks, it was like next 30 days. It was like, oh my gosh, So it's, when I tell my patients, regardless, one of the best things you can tell yourself is release attachment to outcome. So to be in the moment, right? Not to go too far in the future because that creates anxiety, future-focused thinking, because you will kind of catastrophize everything. Not to stay in the past, if only this person hadn't gone to that party, if only this hadn't happened, because that creates depression. So I'm really big on being in the moment, being present, releasing attachment to outcome, because otherwise we will find ourselves in this constant loop of anxiety and depression that just gets deeper and deeper with time.
I mean, COVID was a whole nother beast. I never seen anything like that. And my jaw would hit the floor when people would say, well, is COVID real? You work in a funeral home. Is COVID real? I said, I couldn't, for a minute, I couldn't even answer. I said, well, I remember this one woman I was speaking to, I said, ma'am, at our new funeral home that we built, we made sure we have a large walk-in cooler. We have a very large walk-in cooler. Other funeral homes don't even have normal refrigeration, but we have a very large walk-in cooler. I said we had to call and rent another cooler to have it placed on the parking lot and wired up because ours was not enough. Now you tell me if COVID is real. And it just, I couldn't believe it. And it was just, it's, hope it never comes back again, but it was a whole crazy time. Antonio, kind of touch on some of those aspects that we really look out for our staff on as well, at least at James Cole Funeral Home, how we care for our staff's mental health.
Well, one thing after COVID is where we realized that there was an overwhelming need for more of that self-care amongst the staff. So we instituted a program called Wellness Wednesdays, where we brought in massage therapists a couple times a month, and we had a room set up where people could sit in a massage chair and get massages, and we'd have a set up list all day long where people can come in and get their massages. We also did one-on-one counseling sessions where we had a counselor come in and talk with people one-on-one to discuss whatever issues, and that stayed confidential between themselves and the therapist. And also just in general, what we do with a lot of companies of our size don't and can't do is we pay 100% medical coverage for our employees and their families. So they don't have to contribute a dime out of their own pocket for that medical coverage. So, and we encourage the staff to use that. A lot of times people have the coverage, but they don't use it. So that's also a thing, is making sure your staff is utilizing that care, especially since we're paying for it. You might as well get the service for it and use it.
Implementing programs such as that, the Wellness Wednesday, it helps with even that work-life balance, because I can only imagine that it's complicated with that work-life balance because you guys are getting calls all times of day. But it definitely shows your staff that they are valued, that you value their mental and emotional well-being, and that's going to definitely make them feel more like a family, you know, and that they matter. Definitely. Post-COVID, I just noticed across the board, companies that you never imagined implementing more wellness programs, even the services that I offer at my wellness center, the corporate offerings increased exponentially since COVID. And I'm talking big companies such as Blue Cross Blue Shield, Google, or what have you, were bringing us in to actually perform some of our meditation services for them, or other type of trauma debriefing services. There was a recognition at that time, unlike any time before in history, that it's very imperative for you to put your staff and your own mental health, make it a priority, because that's going to increase the likelihood that they won't be, again, impacted emotionally long-term from being in that environment on an everyday basis.
How in the funeral business do we deal with either a community leader or a large popular figure that passes? What happens? How do you do that? What does that look like? And I know you had your fair share of those funerals, so maybe you could touch on just a little bit of what happens at the funeral home and how do we deal with that?
Well, since everybody is looking at you, you know, you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's. It's a lot of work when you have a big funeral like that. But main thing is that you treat that family just like you treat any other family, you know, even though there may be a special person, but, you know, everybody is a special person, you know what I'm saying? So you just have to work a lot harder when you have a big funeral and tell everybody to be on their toes because everybody is watching.
And then Dr. Rose, how is it that when celebrities pass or people of notoriety pass, people feel that loss?
Oh, yes.
Like you think about when Michael Jackson passed, like people were, you know, like literally devastated, like, and probably never met, and you could never met him, maybe not even seen him in person, like at a concert even, but just because they're such a big fan, like they felt that emotionally. What is that connection? Like, is it just entertainers do something for us, or what is that connection?
Listen, 2016, I canceled my whole day when Prince died. I did. I literally, when I saw that notice come across my phone, I screamed in my office, and I was just like, I can't stay. I have to leave. You would have thought like that was a family member, right? But I think about, I heard, it was Trevor Noah. He was talking recently in an interview, and I just thought this was so well put. And he talked about how he was out with his brother, and people were constantly coming up to him, you know, wanting pictures or what have you. I was in New York this weekend, and Denzel came out the theater, and I screamed like a 16-year-old girl, right? But it was Trevor Noah said, you know, he got kind of irritated after a while because people are coming up, and said his brother said to him, he was like, brother, you know, you don't know these people, but these people see you every single night. They see you every single night. They ended their night with you. They're laughing with you. They may not have had any other human contact in the day, but they're seeing you on TV. He says, so even though you don't know them, they have a connection to you that's real. And he said that really put it in perspective. So that's, again, when you grew up listening to Michael Jackson, Prince, you know, you think about all these celebrities, and it's just such an impactful, and it affects not just us, but there's a sense of universality that goes with it too, because the whole world is mourning. Going back to Prince, I remember how they showed across the world, people lighting up their homes and buildings in purple. And it was just like, oh my gosh, the impact, you know, is measurable for so many of us, which also helps because that sense of universality, you don't feel so alone. So in some ways, those can be even more, I guess you get more support going through that than you would with a close family member dying. Yeah.
Yeah, along those lines, I mean, I never would have thought I would see a grave space at a cemetery dedicated to stuffed animals, letters, and memorabilia.
Okay,
Because when Michael Jackson died, the entire community came out and they came to Motown. And Motown's right next door. They're our neighbors.
So you guys saw
So we saw everybody coming and placing teddy bears and notes and letters and cards and everything that was there. But then even Motown said, well, what do we do with this? And of course they looked next door.
Yeah.
And they said, well, can you help us? And we actually got everything all together and bagged up all the teddy bears. So everybody in Detroit, anybody that's listening, anybody that's watching, that left a teddy bear for Michael Jackson, that left a note, just know that it was collected. It was taken in a funeral procession
Are you serious?
to the cemetery.
Wow.
And it was buried.
Oh my.
And it was that kind of final, this is what the people of Detroit
That is
felt for Michael Jackson.
amazing.
Right. Oh man, well thank you so much, Mom. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Dr.
it's been my
Rose.
pleasure. Thank you
I'm
all.
so glad you're here to remind people just, how funeral directors are human too,
Absolutely.
and how we all have those feelings and everybody experiences something as well. Now on to the next portion of our podcast that we always do. We go into Mythbusters. Today's climate and today's world, is it true that most people graduating from funeral director programs are women and not men?
Actually, now, yes, because up until probably the late 80s, early 90s, the majority were men. It was a very male-focused industry. Even women were shunned away from it. So, people like my mom here, when they had to step up and run the business when our grandfather passed, it was taboo or even looked down or people assumed that she couldn't do it. So it was very male-centered. But now, into the 2000s, the shift really happened where you had more females, and it's continued on. So you have more women who are graduating from mortuary schools than men.
And Mom, kind of last Mythbuster, I know you're going to want to answer this one. Is it true that you can be buried with your pet?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You're going to bury me with all mine. I have a little cemetery at my house going on right now with all my dog's ashes and even your ferret's ashes are at the house. So, but yeah, you can be buried with your pet. We have even put, not just ashes, but we have put a dog in a casket with a person where we kept the dog refrigerated. And at the last minute before we had the funeral, we put the dog in the casket with the person because that's what the family wanted, and the person was so attached to that pet. Most times it's not the actual pet, though most times it is the ashes. But yep, you can do that. Yeah.
And I another Mythbuster along with that one. I've heard my mother say this a million times when people say, well, can I bring my dog to the viewing?
Oh, yes, bring them. I'm half dog myself, so when I see my fellow cousins come in the door, I'm very happy. But I allow all families to bring in their dogs. I think it's good for the dog to have a little exposure with that loved one.
Do you notice like that the dog recognizes?
We do.
That?
When the dog comes up to the casket, and
Wow.
and to me, unless I guess these dogs have good noses, because there's other scents
I've
after their
heard
body
that
has been
before.
embalmed, but they still seem to know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have no problem at James Cole bringing dogs in the door,
You're right.
as long as they don't go to the bathroom.
You're right. All right, well, on to our fun fact for this episode. The term funeral parlor comes from a time when wakes were literally held in the parlor of the family home. Before funeral homes existed, families displayed the body in their living room. Hence why, in modern day times, the term living room has been replaced or has replaced the term parlor, trying to distance that home view from a more somber occasion and whatnot. And I even remember when I was younger, and that's what we would do. We actually had a gentleman that would take chairs to people's houses. And he would, that was one of his jobs, was to, after you're done with your funeral service, you come back, load up some chairs, take them to the house because the family's gonna have people over there. And I've even heard that that's why if you go to an older home, even the door frames are wider because they made sure that they made the door frames wider to fit a casket through.
That is
So that when the time came, you could have the visitation and viewing at the house in the parlor. Yep.
So, and connecting with you, how would you recommend people reach out to you if they want to know more and learn more about your?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very easy. If people could just put my name in, either Google search it or enter drrosemoten.com.
And that's Dr.
Yeah, no,
DR.
DRROSEMOTEN.
Perfect. Perfect. Reach out if you need any kind of services, any kind of counseling. Well, Dr. Rose, thank you again.
Thank
Mom,
you.
Thank you again for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Next episode, stay tuned. We're going to have Undertaker outtakes. So be aware of that next episode. Be sure you submit all your questions. Any questions that you guys may have, submit those to us. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Whatever platform you're listening to or viewing us on, hit that like button, subscribe. And we will make sure that we get your questions answered, and we'll try to touch on every single comment if we can. And also, just as a reminder, whether you're in grief, in service, or curious, we're here for you every step of the way. Tune in next time to the Repast Podcast.